a ještě s tím musím dát ještě kameru. Dobrý. Já vím, jako vypadám hezky, moc ne, no, ale nechci tam, abyste mi tam to viděli. Pojď, 50. Nice, to jo, otevřu nějaký lisa. Čeho? Pojďte ke spát pod sebe. Když tam je tam je Travis Scott s měsícem na zádech. To je Moon, má Moona na zádech. Pojďte, 20 vteřin. Hi. Všichni do komentářů nebo do chatu nebo kde jste. Napište hi, tak. Kámo, nás tu je, ale. Ty píčo. 3, 2. Kámo, jestli to přerušil, to ten čurvák, vole.
The bad and having some hard. Okay, look now, look how they running. They beating white people down just to show us what's coming, or to show us we nothing, or to show us we only walk when we're singing or balling. Shut up and dribble, rock.
Hey everybody, I'm Carrie Champion. Welcome to We the People. So today we are having a very candid conversation with athletes and artists who want to make sure that you use your voice to vote. Voting is your voice. So we have so many different issues that have happened in this country. It's really, truly unprecedented time. So I'm looking forward to these conversations. I think you'll be educated, and most importantly informed. We have morethevote.org, weallvote.org, and fairfight.com. Those resources are imperative as we try to change our future. There's no way that we can talk about hip-hop, or even the fact that we want to talk about activism, black voter suppression, bringing this guy's Texas. We were talking about Bumby. He is an activist, a scholar, and an all-around gentleman. Thank you so much for spending some time with us. Fun, I don't want to start heavy, but I guess I have to, because that's where we are in the world today. It's heavy as hell. And when you think about what needs to happen in this country in terms of change, what's the first thing that you think of?
Equality. That's pretty much the first thing that comes to mind, right? Like, people need to be seen as equals in this world. You know, we had to fight just to be recognized as a full citizen in this country and not 3/5.
The world is now seeing what we've known for so long in the culture and in the community. The one way that we can fight is obviously voting. Talk to me about what voting is.
I hear people all the time talk about when vote doesn't matter and that voting doesn't make a difference. If that's true, why do they work so hard to suppress the black vote? Because they understand the power of the vote. And so it's time that black people collectively also understand the power of their vote. And not just on the national level, because a lot of times we only have these conversations every 4 years. People need to be very much involved in their local politics. They need to understand who their elected officials are, where they stand on issues that affect you. And you need to use your vote to either support the ones that care about you and your condition, or to elect people who do. A newer initiative that we're dealing with is educating felons, right? So in the state of Texas, if you're a felon, right, if you've been to jail or to prison, but you're no longer on probation or parole, you have the right to register to vote. Another thing that was just brought to my attention is an initiative called Orange, which is happening not just in Houston, but all over the country. If you're in jail currently, during pre-trial, you have not been convicted, like you're still in jail waiting for your day in court, you are still eligible to vote.
And you said something so key. They work so hard to hope that we stay uninformed, or more importantly, to suppress the black vote. If you could do one thing with this message that we're trying to send today about how important voting is, what type of images would you like for people to understand and see when they go to these polls and vote, or when they cast their ballots?
I think the images that we've all seen, you know what I'm saying, for decades decades in this country, if not centuries in this country, we've seen black people oppressed. We've seen black people attacked. So every time you look back and you see those old black and white images of people of color being attacked by dogs and people of color being sprayed with hoses, that's what they were fighting for. Back then, they were just fighting for a chance to vote. People like Martin Luther King Jr., people like Malcolm X, these people died to help us um, be in a position to have the power that we have now, which is to be able to cast a vote and make a decision about the people that have controls over our lives. So, I mean, if you in your own community need a reason to vote, look at a person like George Floyd. If the people in your city are not open to police reform, are not open to having a conversation about defunding the police, are not open to issues concerning economic equality, judicial
Lubi się
equality, racial
sprawiają,
equality,
lubi
right?
się
If they're scared to say
ja
Black
myślę,
Lives Matter,
że ja się
you have the
sprawiają,
power to
to
put
se
people in
mi
those positions who do
tam
believe that Black lives matter, who do believe in racial equality,
jak
economic
przyjdziesz woła,
equality,
to
judicial
się
equality,
rano
right?
skończy.
Who see us as human beings. And if the people in your community don't feel that way, vote them out. It's that simple. Just vote them out. We don't have enough time to sit around and hope that people change their mind.
Yeah, Bumpy, you point out something so important. We have the power, and that is in our vote, and that is with our voice, and that's how we use our voice. I think of where we are right now. People say this is a particular moment, but it is a movement, not just a moment, it is a movement. Why, in your opinion, was it George Floyd's death? Why was that the chosen brutality for people to say, oh my God, black people are still oppressed in this country, and it is not fair?
I think it's twofold, Carrie. In so many different encounters with between people of color and the police, there simply is no proof of what happened in the interaction. And so what happens is in a court of law, it tends to lean towards the policeman's point of view, right? In this case, we saw very clearly what happened. I think the other thing is due to the fact that everyone was at home, basically during this time period in relation to the coronavirus. You couldn't avoid it, right? It was on every television station, it was on every social media platform. Everywhere you turn, you were constantly hit upside the head with this message. You see in the interaction that this man did nothing to deserve what happened to him.
That's right. I think so well said, because if you think about it, in the grand scheme of things, it wasn't worth it, and he didn't have to lose his life. I think that you touched on something that a lot of people talk about, and that is now defunding the police. That has been such a huge conversation, but there's so many misconceptions around defunding and dismantling. Uh, if you will, educate the audience.
All right, so most people, when they hear the term defund the police, they tend to think of, oh, they're going to take away our police department. Nothing could be further from the point. Defunding the police means that in certain communities, even Houston, take for example, we had over $1 billion allocated to our police force. Now, what is that money being used for? Some of that money tends to be allocated towards riot shields, right? Pepper spray, right? That kind of thing. That's only used against the people that fund this budget, right? So why would the people want to supply the police with the means to oppress them? If the police are concerned about the situation in certain communities with a higher crime rate, well, higher crime rates tend to happen in communities where there's not there's not employment opportunities, right? There's not a lot of social services, and people are going to do what they need to do to take care of themselves and their families. When the community has more opportunities for employment, more opportunities for upward mobility, then they tend to be a less of a strain on the government. They tend to have a lower crime rate, and because of that, we'll have less need for the police in those communities.
You are passionate about so many different things in terms of making sure that we are holding our leaders accountable. Talk to me about some of the other projects that you're doing.
Well,